Hi everyone, thought I would do a little tutorial here for the baritone on Here Comes the Sun. This is actually a bit complex on the baritone, so I'm probably gonna I'm gonna make some mistakes in this, I'm sure. But let's talk about this. There's two basic riffs that get played in the song. And sometimes riffs can just be left out. They're not necessary. Sometimes they become an integral part of the song. And in Here Comes the Sun, there's two riffs that are very important. The first riff is in the verse where it goes, here comes the sun, ba bum bum bum. We want to hear that. Now on the baritone, there's a couple places to play that. The problem is, when you're playing this is a riff that's laid on top of the song. So to play this riff, you pretty much almost have to stop playing the baritone just to play those notes. They're not easily found within the chord itself where we're playing. The riff and what's being played is, okay, so it's what's happening is you're actually going from a G chord to a G2 chord and then back again. Well, that's very difficult to play unless you would stop. Here comes the sun. You'd have to break your rhythm. You could also play it up here. Now you might be able to work that in. Here comes the sun. But again, you're banging stuff up in the top and it's just not a clean thing to play. So if you're playing this by yourself, what I would suggest doing is either play this G chord, and what we're going to do is we're going to make this a G2. It's probably a G plus 2, an add 2. That 2, what we're looking for is an A note, all right? And that's going to be here on the 3rd string, 2nd fret, because this is your G string. 2nd fret is an A. And you could go, here comes the sun. And what we're doing is taking our regular strumming pattern, down, down, up, up, down. And on those two upstrokes, the first one we're going to add the 2. On the second one, we're going to release the 2 to get the... We're going to use that to release it. It sounded funny, but that's what we're going to do. Sounds like this. Here comes the sun down. Now in the bass end, that's very muted and it's kind of hard to hear. You could go, you can play it up here. Here comes the sun. And I would suggest doing it there if you're playing the G. You could catch it off this low, but it's real muddy. So if you're playing a single finger G, all you're doing is adding the 5th fret on the E string, your 1st string. Here comes the sun down, up, off, bum, bum. That gets our G2 and back to the G. Now if you're playing a closed position G, that works just as fine. You can use your pinky. Here comes the sun. So that's my suggestion for that riff if you're playing the song, especially by yourself. If we're in an ensemble, there'd be people just playing the G and I'd have people actually play to make that come out. So let's go on to the second riff. So again, just as a summary, if you play in an open position, you can catch it up here on the bass, but I think that's real muddy. I think it sounds better here. And if you're playing a closed position, you're playing the same thing, just using your pinky to grab that. So it's grabbing that A note. So, all right, that's the first riff. Let's move on now to the second one. This one's a little more complex. If you look at it, looks kind of complicated. What they're doing is that they're going into a triplet pattern. There's a pickup note, then they go into a triplet feel. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, and they're using a descending bass line. Boom, 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 and then a little exit like that. Now the only place I can find that is relatively playable on the baritone for this is up in here, and you'll notice what we're going to do. So what we have is on the 3rd string we have our pickup note, that's the and of 4. I'm playing that with my third or ring finger. Now, one of the things that's going to happen is your index finger is going to want to cover the first, second, and third string. So when you play that pickup note, you're going to lay that down and you're going to end up with a bar like that across the first, second, and third. And you're going to want to just leave that there. So the run goes like this. So what's happening here? Now, the way I like to think about it is I know I have that descending bass line built off these triplets. So I want to find out where my bass is. So we have our pickup note. My first note right there is on the 5th fret, 2nd string. Next note is going to be played with the pinky up here on the 8th fret of that 2nd string. Now, since I've barred, my first string is already playing on the 5th, okay? So that first run after the pickup note is, I'm leaving that index finger down, I'm playing that note on the 2nd string, then I'm putting my pinky finger down. Now I get to the 1st string. Now when I come back, I'm already in position because my next bass note goes, I'm leaving that ring finger there, which was the pickup, because that's going to become the 2nd bass tone. So notice I haven't had to do any changes in my fingering to get that. Once I've played ring finger, bar down with the index finger, pinky down. Now I can leave that position because now my bass note becomes the ring finger. Then for the next one, I just lift my ring finger, again, keeping that index down. Bring the ring finger back on. Then we do our little run, which starts with the pinky, which is already down. And that's just a descending G scale. So again, what I'm thinking of when I play this is that I have a pickup note, I put my index finger over these 3 strings, like that, okay? Now this is a little complex. It's a funny fingering pattern because what you're doing is at your very first triplet feel, you're actually using 2 notes on the same string. And that's where they get implanted, that your index finger goes down, pinky catches that 8th fret on the 2nd, and then you get the open. And it kind of feels funny to play that as the first. Then you already had your ring finger down. Now it shifts, the triplet goes to the 3rd, 2nd, and 1st string. Then when you lift the ring finger, you're again back on 3rd, 2nd, and 1st. So there's kind of a funny feel to this, but again, it sounds like this. So let's set the metronome. I'm going to set the metronome at 84. And actually, I'm going to take that down a little bit more. I'm going to go all the way down to 80 here. These are 8th notes, not quarter notes. All right? So we can keep this in time. So we've got a little pickup there, which is that 7th. So if you want to kind of get ready for that, bum, 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 bum. And it goes like this. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and all right, one more time. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. And that's your run to get you back into the G. All right? Now, when you play this, I would practice it by starting just getting that. That's your first right there. You've got your pickup note, and then you've got your triplet here, which requires you to bar, put down your pinky, and then catch that first string. Bum, 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 bum. Now your thumb will drop into the feel here when you go. And now the bass moves to the third string. So it's got a bit of a funny feel and it's a little bit complex. So take it really, really slow. Another thing for the baritone players when you're playing this song, we have a C major 7. And the C major 7 on the baritone, it's kind of difficult to play because to make a C major 7 in an open chord, you want to add this B note, which is your E minor. And it just sounds like a minor chord. So one of the things you can do, you can take the major 7 out if you want. It would sound like this. Here comes the sun, da, 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 da. Here comes the sun. You can remove that major 7 and just play a C. You can play the major 7 up here. If you're going from an open chord, here comes the sun. Here comes the sun. I would suggest if you play this major 7 where you bar across the 5 and use the pinky, I use my pinky to catch the 7th fret. I would suggest playing the A7 here, which is the bar on the 5th fret, just dropping your index finger on that 3rd string on the 3rd string, 2nd fret right there. Actually, it's the 6th fret if you count up. I would play the A7 there instead of trying to come back down. That way you're not going to get all these jumps. Here comes the sun. Here comes the sun. Okay, you got all these movements and jumps and stuff. I would play the G if you're going to close it. Here comes the sun. Here comes the sun. And I say, I would just stay in these positions, then you come out then you could go to the it's all right, and then you can go to your all right. So have fun with that. Take this really slow, break that pattern down because this is kind of a funny feel. You're changing where the bass pattern is going. That. So slow it down again. I had the metronome set. I think we had it set at 80, and those were 8th notes. If you want to take it down even more to 72 or something like that, till you can get it, and break that pattern up. Get used to just getting that first part, the pickup note, and then bum, 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 and then that's where your thumb is going to come into play, and it transfers the bass note to this 3rd string. So just take that section. Bum, 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 bum. So you can get your thumb moving. Now your thumb is setting the first beat of the triplet. Bum, 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 bum. So I would work on that. Take this really slow until you get comfortable. You're going to be coming off of a G chord. So it's quite a little jump there if you're playing the open it. So it's getting that boom, 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 boom. And then once you set this, everything kind of stays, then the ring finger is gonna like that. So take it really slow, break it down in little segments, first getting in, then making the transfer to where the triplet's now starting with your thumb. And and then coming out with your, and then you get back. All right? All right, enjoy.